Welcome to the Quantum Health Connection podcast. Everybody, thank you so much for tuning in. And I'm here with my lovely co-host, Vanessa Baldwin. My name is Heather Crimson, and we have a really exciting episode because we're going to talk about one of the major players biochemically and quantumly for our health, and that's called POMC. Before we dive in, though, I'd like to ask if you're enjoying our podcast. We're on 2 years now. We just passed our 100th episode, so we're so excited to keep going and to bring you more information that is literally life-saving. And if you're benefiting from that, please consider giving us up to a 5-star review on iTunes or Spotify, or Apple rather, and Spotify. And we welcome all the sharing that you can do with people who could benefit from our podcast. So we also have our YouTube channels. Mine is Enlightened Mood and Vanessa's is Bright Light Wellness. So Vanessa, let's talk about POMC today.
Yeah, I'm so excited to talk about POMC and how it supports our health. It's like, oh, that's the reason why a lot of the things, what sunlight is, why it's so supportive to us and why sunlight is such a big benefit for our health. So yeah, it's so exciting. And the light is returning. Thank goodness. Here in New York, we're getting some sunny days here and then some not so sunny days. So POMC is it's a polypeptide that cleaves into different proteins, right? That have different benefits of action in the body, right? And it's really stimulated by UV light in general. And not everybody has UV light all year round. I didn't know that. There are parts of the world, like very north or very south, that don't get UV light during the winter, which is kind of a bummer. And like even where I live, there's days that they like several, I'd say at least a month or two where the UV index is a 1. So you're only getting UVA and it's a very short window. So now we're getting more availability of POMC is my point here, right? As the spring season comes in, because POMC is stimulated by UVA and UVB, but UVB is really the much stronger stimulus. So when you're not getting UVB light, you're not really getting this stimulus and all these kind of benefits of POMC that we would get from sunlight. So the spring is here. I kind of think of the spring as like this like true time for the new year. It's like this upregulation of like detoxification happens. I tend to want to eat lighter. I tend to want to eat more greens, more bitter foods. It's like my body actually craves this. Like all of a sudden, I don't know about you, Heather. I'm like, oh, I want a salad all of a sudden. Like it really just like I wanted it. I was like, so excited for arugula and all this. And that's because it's like this change that's happening in the environment where everything is growing and blooming and things are starting to come out. And yeah, I think that's also like it's a ties in with this POMC conversation, right? It's because of the light, right? That you're feeling like these shifts in your environment. Of course, you have to be outside to feel those shifts and be connecting with nature, right? But you will feel those shifts the more and more that you align to quantum and circadian biology. Right.
Absolutely. And I'm right there with you with the spring bitter greens. I just bought some radicchio. I was
Ooh.
eyeing the dandelion. I can't quite get myself to get the dandelion, but someday maybe.
You tried in a tea? I drink dandelion tea.
Not yet. I mean, I've had it but many years ago, but I like the radicchio and the
Yeah, that's a good one.
endive and then the chicories. So that's really my favorite. So,
Mhm.
but like Vanessa says, you guys, light is integral to health. Like we are literally light beings. We create our own light, we emit light, and we are intimately tied in a bidirectional relationship with the sun and the cycles of light and dark. And so the whole story of Palm C is one of how we interact with sunlight, how our body absolutely needs those inputs, those UVA and then for POMC, B is even more like more stimulating. And
Mhm.
so if we're not getting outside enough, like this morning I was sitting outside in front of the house to get some UVA light and I had my belly out and I'm like, oh well, everyone's driving by and not normally it's a kind of a more of a commercial area and I'm just like, oh well, there's truck drivers driving by, That's how important it is to me. Like my ego is gonna take second, fiddle to
Same way. I'm the
health
same.
needs.
Uh, Yep, I am the same. Like we camp a lot, so you'll see me like I'll be in my sports bra and my shorts, and I don't even care. Like, and because when we're camping, there's I mean I like spots that are more spread apart, but sometimes they're not, and I'm like I don't even care, because light is that important. Like I'm totally. the same. And it actually, I'm so glad you brought that up because it's really important for your calves and your gut to be exposed to these UV light stimuluses because these light frequencies are shorter and they obviously can't penetrate through clothing, right? Like, so your infrared and your longer wavelengths of light, your red light, they can actually kind of penetrate through a little bit of clothing, but UV cannot. So you need to have your skin exposed to the UV light to get this information, right? Your skin and your eyes, right? No sunglasses, no sunscreen, all naked skin, naked eyes. Be outside naked if you'd like, if you can, if you have that opportunity. But the calves and the gut are have more sensitive nerves that connect the gut and skin access. So it's even more important to have those pieces stimulated or exposed to the sun to get that stimulus for the gut
Mm-hmm.
skin access.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, so like you said, the propionmelanocortin is a POMC for short, and it's a polypeptide, and it breaks up and cleaves, in other words, into all these different compounds. And one of those is ACTH. And so ACTH is adrenocorticotropic hormone, and that's basically all to do with our stress response. And so when we get that light signal, when we get UVB, the ACTH is what stimulates the release of of a hormone called cortisol. And so that hormone cortisol helps us maintain blood sugar and protects our body from stress, and then it stops or rather suppresses inflammation. So you can consider sunlight in that way as an adaptogen.
Yeah, I really do think it is like an adaptogen, like, and it's like a stress balancer, like a cortisol balancer, right? And I know I felt that before, but I also want to say you got to monitor your body and know what's good because I've seen my body like in the beginning when sunlight gets stronger, like sometimes it's too much, right? And I need to like
Absolutely.
yeah, so then you have to kind of monitor yourself. So because it's an adaptogen and it can balance, but we can overdo things as well, right? So that's also kind of important. So you kind of have to monitor your body a little bit in that. Like I've seen sunlight actually raise my glucose a little bit because I've stressed my system, I think, a little bit too much, and I've been out for too long,
Wow.
especially in the beginning of the season when I'm still trying to like adapt to that, right? So of course you always want to like we've talked about this. I think we have an episode about a year ago about how to like adapt to the sun, right? And how to like build your solar sun adaptation. So you always want to do that nice and slowly. But
And
yeah,
I have a great point related to this. Excuse me for interrupting, but when I moved from the coast of California, where for the summers it was mostly foggy or cloudy and foggy and cool, because right on the ocean there's an inversion, and the hot weather inland pulls in all this cool, moist fogginess from the ocean, and which sucked for me, right? Because I like wanted that sun all summer when the UVB was higher.
mhm,
However, it wasn't. And so when I moved to the desert in June and I went from sunbathing there when I could get little periods of sun to here, and then
mhm,
when it got really hot here, it was so hot and the UVB was higher that I could literally only stay outside for 15 or 20 minutes at first. And that, Vanessa, is even with years, I'd say 7 or 8 years of building a solar callus of UV exposure, but again, all on the coast, right? So
yeah,
same latitude. This is the same latitude, but it's that, but I'm higher, a little higher elevation, of course, it's like 2,000 feet versus sea level. And then I had so higher UVB, and then that was temperature wise, it was way hotter. We're talking a 40 to 50 degree difference is about 110, 105 sometimes. So I literally was out there, and in 15 minutes I'd get heart palpitations, I'm like sweating like crazy. And it took about a month before I could adjust to being out there for half an hour. And then, eventually I could be out there for 45 minutes. And now, granted, it was like a sauna, right? I'm just like sweating like crazy. However, that's exactly what you're saying. So I had to really pay attention to how my body was responding and monitor how intense that the rays were, and that I was getting stress. And as much as I wanted to stay out there because my brain is like, no, more UV, it's better. The higher UV, the better. I wasn't ready for it.
right. You have to be ready for that. Exactly, exactly. So it can modulate the stress response like an adaptogen, but you also, if you take too much ashwagandha, like what's going to happen, right? You can't like, it's the same kind of thing. Like it has to be done in this kind of a way where you're paying attention to your body and how you're responding always, right? With everything we do, right? Like everything has a benefit until you're just overdoing it, right? And then it's not a benefit, right? So take that into consideration. But yeah, ATCH is, helping regulate that cortisol, and also like under artificial blue light now, like if you're thinking about it that way, that's going to chronically then elevate that cortisol, mess with our circadian rhythms. And this is like what's leading to like adrenal fatigue, right? Because we're stimulating this cortisol response way into the evening when we shouldn't be, when we should be having darkness, right? And then that's going to lead to all kinds of things like, autoimmune issues, possibly glucose issues, diabetes, metabolic syndrome, all kinds of stuff, because the cortisol is just getting too activated. It's too high. So this is why we're always promoting red light bulbs in the evening, orange light bulbs. If you like that, that's a little bit less, than red. Blue blockers, all the things getting dark at night is really imperative, right?
Yeah, and the next one is the alpha melanocyte stimulating hormone, otherwise known as AMSH, that POMC breaks up into. So this is one of those compounds, and this really helps with inflammation, appetite regulation. So when we're getting adequate UVB to stimulate this production, it's going to help with us creating a tan. In other words, we have enough melanin in our skin, and that's protective against more UV light, or the UV light in general. So the other thing that I think that, especially people who are like focus, Vanessa, on weight issues, really need to understand that POMC is their best friend, and
Yeah.
using the sun wisely, because the alpha MSH helps to suppress appetite naturally, regulates your energy balance, has strong anti-inflammatory properties, and creates other compounds that helps protect against, or rather reduces compounds like TNF alpha and IL-6, which protects against autoimmune issues. So it's a lot of things happening there.
Right. So it's protecting against your autoimmunity. It's raising your energy, right? And then it's decreasing your appetite. That sounds like a natural GLP-1 to me.
Yeah.
Literally,
Yeah.
right? Like isn't that that's what we're looking for when we're thinking about a GLP-1?
Yep.
That's literally, sunlight is a natural GLP-1 in my opinion. And I also want to point out that alpha MSH, like it's the melanocyte stimulating. So this is the one that actually stimulates your melanocytes and helps you make a tan, right? Which again, like Heather mentioned, this is our natural built-in sunscreen, and we want to have this tan. And a lot of times people with people who have like SIRS and mold, they're often, a lot of times they're pale and they have a hard time making a tan. And they have a deficiency in alpha MSH. And it's funny because years and years and years ago, when I first got into my health crisis, I had a doctor test alpha MSH levels in me, which was interesting because she was trying to say if I had like a mold illness.
So she just knew to check that. It wasn't like you asked her to. She just knew that was.
Oh, no, because
Oh, that's so interesting.
they use it as a marker
Oh,
for.
I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah, but the thing is, to me, that means that you're never getting outside and you're always inside, right? Like the solution here is UVA and UVB light to help stimulate this production so you can start building that melanin again.
Well, what was your results of your what was your marker?
I think it was okay. Mine was okay. Yeah. I've was already using sunlight at that time. I was like
Oh, okay.
a little bit about sunlight when I got this. Like I had been out in the summer. It was like a September testing that she did, and I had been out that whole summer. I had started listening to some doctors who had mentioned to be outside and getting sunlight and ketosis. So I was already doing that. So I think that I had improved it. So I got lucky, but yeah.
Yeah.
But if you're under artificial light, what's going to happen with alpha MSH? It's going to lead to poor melanin production. We're going to have more vulnerability to like damage from sunlight, actually, like UVB damage. Like if we're not honoring the correct light and dark cycles, and we're, doing the artificial light stuff at night and scrolling on the phones and having all the blue light, our melanin is not going to be as strong. So we, just as much as we need bright days, we need dark nights, right? We say this all the time. But it also will increase your hunger and your fat storage and lead to weight gain. So, we don't want to be, this is another reason not to use artificial light at night. And then again, risk of autoimmunity. So, yeah,
Oh my gosh, there's really nothing good about artificial light at all.
no, nothing. But it's good to just keep bringing it up, I feel like, because
Oh, absolutely. We have to, because some people may be listening to this for the first times. We may have veteran listeners who already know that, but it's worth repeating because it's literally such a poison, in my opinion, right?
such a poison, such a poison.
So, yeah,
Yeah.
the next thing that POMC cleaves into on our list here is beta melanocyte stimulating hormone, or BMSH. And that is about energy and fat metabolism. So it enhances lipid metabolism, promotes fat burning and thermogenesis, modulates hypothalamic energy sensing pathways that help maintain balanced glucose homeostasis and improves insulin sensitivity. So this also helps or has a role in suppressing appetite and helps coordinate energy storage versus expenditure in light response. So again, POMC is all about helping our bodies to be balanced.
It's literally like for your hormones and your metabolism, I can't think of anything better, right? Like here again, we're talking about glucose, insulin sensitivity, we're talking about burning fat, like I mean, really, like there's nothing better than UV light for our hormones and our metabolism. And this is why we're meant to be outside and not indoors. And this is why the more we live indoors, the more we have a culture that is starving for processed foods and gaining weight, unfortunately. And under artificial blue light, if we're stimulating this production, because blue light, this is going to stimulate it, right? When we're looking at blue light at night, it's going to impair your fat metabolism, leading to weight gain, insulin resistance, and metabolic syndrome. So yeah, we need to work on that. I'll do the next one, which is gamma melanocyte stimulating hormones. This is the fourth polypeptide or peptide that we get. And this is for cardiovascular health. And when you're out in sunlight actually helps regulate your blood pressure, and it keeps this like vasodilation, and your red blood cells actually like come to the surface of your skin to collect the light and then transfer that light all over your body. Like that's how much you need the light. And this is why I tell my kids, I even tell my kids and I tell people like this is another reason why you want to sun your parts also, like the parts that are having, always clothed, because they need this actually release of nitric oxide to function well. Because that vasodilation helps them as well. Anyway, so that will also not only help with your hormones, but it will help with preventing like cardiovascular disease, atherosclerosis, having healthy endothelial function and reduce the risk of cardiovascular disease. So this is great. And I have seen studies, Heather, and I'm sure you have too, that the blood pressure is actually regulated in people for days after sun exposure. Like it's
Wow.
yeah, I think it was on Paul Saladino's podcast actually that I heard this, and I was like, I need to look up that study, and I've been meaning to, but I haven't. But I was like, that's pretty impressive that it could last that long. Like it's days where the blood pressure is regulated.
Yeah,
So
incredible.
again, it's so important. And then if we're under artificial light, what's happening? We're getting, a decrease in this, hormone, and we're getting a vasoconstriction, increasing high blood pressure and resulting in cardiovascular disease. So again, sunlight is the winner.
Yeah.
Artificial light is the one we want to stay away from.
Absolutely. So next we come on to beta endorphin. So as you can hear, endorphin, right? We're talking about mood, pain relief, as well as immune modulation. And so when POMC cleaves into beta endorphin, you have a boost in mood, decrease in stress, helps. It's because it's promoting natural opioid release. And it's like a natural analgesic. It reduces the perception of pain by dampening that pain signal and lowering the transmission in the central nervous system. So it also helps with immune homeostasis, promoting a balanced immune response and overall immune function. So the thing is that one thing I noticed, Vanessa, with increased sunlight exposure over even a short period of time, but especially cumulatively, is that my mood is just so much more balanced and euthymic. And there's very few times where I feel like dejected or like before when I wasn't getting regular sun exposure, it was easier to slip into those low spots and have sort of that gloom and doom. Oh my gosh, negative stinking thinking we call it in the psychotherapy world. So I think that the sun is what that, I mean, there's so many different things that tell us that we're supposed to be outside because we feel better naturally outside. And this is beta endorphin is what's behind that.
It's literally your own natural pharmacy that you can tap into. And I'll share two stories. I mean, mood and pain relief and immune modulation from sunlight have been so imperative for me. And just recently we had like a whole week of just really gloomy, rainy, cold, windy days. And I was like, I felt a little down. And then yesterday it was finally a sunny day. I was like, whoosh, you couldn't put me inside. And I felt so much better. Like I needed it. My body's craving it, right? Because this is actually one of the reasons why we're addicted to sunlight. Like this is how we are. It's like the stimulus, right? It's a beta endorphin. It's what we want to come back to, right? And when I started using sunlight in my healing journey, one of the things that I noticed was not only was, better sleep, was better moods and pain relief. My chronic pain was better. It
Wow.
wasn't gone, but it was highly improved. And of course, I was also grounding, but the sunlight is doing that. And another thing that I want to point out here is that it's supports the immune function by suppressing an overactive inflammatory response. How many people do you know have an overactive immune system? Like
Yep.
most. I mean, so especially when they were dealing with chronic illness. So this is so important, and if we're under artificial blue light, we just have to say as well, this is going to be blunted, right? So you're going to have more lower moods, you're going to have more anxiety, and you're going to have more chronic pain. And you're going to have higher inflammation and again, more autoimmune risk. I don't know if we said this in this podcast, but I'm sure I said it in other ones. If you live closer to the equator, where you get UV light all year round or UVB, you are less likely to have autoimmune diseases as well as neurodegenerative diseases, like Parkinson's or Alzheimer's or dementia or MS. All of these things are more likely to occur in places where there is less UVB light throughout the year. So, yeah.
Well, that's not to say that you can't thrive in northern latitudes, but you have to know how to adapt to those environments and living indoors. Well, of course, if it's, freezing and snowing, you have to figure out how to manage that. But that's where cold exposure becomes super
Yes.
important to offset, right? So that in winter you're adapting, and then when it is light out in summer, right, you're going to be out there a lot more. You have to get that light. Whereas in the equator, I mean, you just kind of like,
You
it's a
have the light
gravy
all year round.
train all year round. You don't have to worry about being so vigilant about managing the cycles, right?
Right, right. But the thing about the cold exposure is what does that do? It actually helps your body make its own internal UV light. So you're
Yes.
getting that stimulation through the
Yes.
cold, and it helps with leptin big time, which leptin is very correlated to POMC as well. So,
Hmm.
I mean, that's the reason why, those are the two reasons why cold would help, but I don't know. Not everybody's getting in the cold plunge in the winter, and I know it's something that's still hard for me to do. Like it is.
I know. Yeah, I
I
know.
don't. I'll put the shower cold. I can do more cold plunging, fall through spring, but in the dead of winter, my body's like, ooh. So for me, I can get outside and a little less clothing, walk in the snow a little bit, like those kinds of things. But like the real like cold, it feels too stressful for me still. Maybe.
Well, they say though, Vanessa, that we don't need it, especially for women, we don't need it to be ice cold. We just need it to be cool within our body temperature.
Yes, yeah. So maybe like a 75 might be good for me. Maybe next winter that'll be my go-to.
Hmm. Hmm.
Ah, all right. I don't know how to say this one. The next one is, what do you think, Heather? Met.
Met and Kefalin. Yeah.
Thank you so much. You're so good at these things. Uh, pain and stress relief. So this will help with pain and stress release. And we need that, right? So it's again regulating cortisol levels, buffering the body's stress response, and promoting more emotional resilience. I mean, who doesn't need that? It actually is also an immune modulator, enhancing natural killer cells. That sounds like something we want to do. And production of antibodies and strengthens adaptive immunity. It's just like, oh my goodness, how important we need sunlight, like how good it is for us. It will dampen, again, an overactive inflammatory response, protecting against autoimmune dysregulation and these like cytokine releases, like these, that we get. So, yeah, it's really important. Reduces oxidative stress, really good. But then again, if we're under artificial blue light, again, it's more autoimmunity, it's more neuroinflammation, it's more chronic pain, it's heightened stress response, and overall immune dysfunction. So I think the
Hmm.
key here is get outside.
I know. It's so important.
Mm.
POMC also cleaves into beta lipotropin, which helps with fat metabolism and opioid production. So our body's natural internal feel good substances. So it helps with increasing fat burning as well, supporting metabolic flexibility, and especially if you're fasting or under high energy demand situations. So beta lipotropin undergoes further enzymatic cleavage to become beta endorphin, which directly converts fat metabolism, connects fat metabolism to mood regulation and stress relief. So this is helping us regulate energy storage and expenditure and preventing excess fat accumulation while promoting metabolic homeostasis. So kind of important, you guys, beta lipotropin, which becomes beta endorphin, super, super important. And then under artificial light, however, this reduces beta lipotropin, and then that's what leads to fat accumulation. So, I mean, in every one of these cases, when we're talking about the POMC derivatives, it's like blue light equals bad stuff. Blue light equals, right, fat weight gain. Blue
I
light,
want to just clarify artificial blue light, right?
yeah, artificial, of course, yeah.
Yes, artificial blue light, bad. Blue light from the sun, good. But I will actually like I actually thought of that before. I'm like, I'm laying in the sun, I'm like, I'm melting my fat away. Like I think of it that way. Like
Yeah.
you really are. You are. This is what you're doing. You are helping your fat metabolism work better. So we all need a little bit of that, right? And then we have gamma lipotropin, which is fat mobilization. This would be the next one. And this enhances the ability of fatty acids for mitochondria oxidation, supporting energy production, especially during fasting or increased energy demands. And this is really important. Somebody had talked to me about fasting just recently, and I'm like, well, like if you're fasting when you're outside in the sunlight and grounding, you're going to get all these other benefits, right? As opposed to like living an indoor lifestyle while you're fasting, right? That's a huge, and using your breath, and there's so many other things, right? And like slowing down and maybe doing more meditative or more inner work, right? While you're fasting. But if you're like fasting and you're like doing like your regular hustle culture life, that's going to be a problem. But anyway, this will help with the energy demands during fasting. But
So
lipo
what do you think when people say like you should be fasting in the winter because there's food scarcity if we were living, based on the land, but it's actually easier to fast for me in the summer because I get all that natural sunlight impact.
Yeah, I feel the same way. Like, so my fasting in winter is I will do those 2 meals, like, and I'm actually still on 2 meals through the spring. I probably don't do three again until like summertime. But so I'm definitely eating less. Maybe like my window is shorter, so I think of it that way because my window,
That's intermittent fasting is better.
yeah, it's like 9 to 3, my window. So it's a pretty long fast on a daily regular. I don't think I need more than that through the winter.
Yeah, I don't think everyone needs to be doing prolonged fasts
Yeah,
necessarily.
and then in the springtime, I actually feel like a little bit more of a fast because the light is coming back. So
Hmm.
I actually was contemplating it, but I need some sunnier days, like for a 24-hour fast, so I can get like some more grounding and sunlight energy through the fast. So maybe coming up, I might do one just because I was kind of feeling like it. But again, it's because the shifts in my environment are kind of signaling that for me. And I kind of feel like I said before in the beginning of this podcast, like spring is this natural like renewal time. And it kind of feels like I need my body. I don't want to do like a cleanse, but my body's like, okay, we can just get rid of a little bit of stuff, right? Yeah. So,
Yeah. But here's another reason that the sun makes it easier to fast is that because beta or POMC also cleaves into gamma lipotropin,
right.
which is all about fat mobilization. So with that UV light, then you get gamma lipotropin. You're going to have more fatty acid availability for mitochondrial beta oxidation, which then supports energy production, especially during fasting. So there you
Right.
go.
So you're able to switch between the glucose and the fat energy, right? So people who are like, I can't get into ketosis, right? You got to use the sun, right? The sunlight's going to help you be able to do that, right? Because most of us are used to always being glucose burners, partly probably because we live indoor lifestyles and because of the diet that we eat, right? And we're under artificial blue light. But this will actually help your body use fat as an energy source. And when we use fat as an energy source, we make what I think 4 times more energy, right? And then we also make more exclusion zone water as well because it's where they enter. So glucose enters at step 1 in the mitochondrial transport chain, but fat enters at step 2. So you have more loss of electrons when you burn glucose for fuel. And then so you have more reactive oxygen species, so you have more inflammation. But when you enter at step 2 with using fat mobilization, then you're going to have less reactive oxygen species and there's less leakage in the mitochondria, basically. And then, of course, like we were saying, sunlight will help. But if you're under artificial blue light, this is going to lead to fat storage, right? Visceral fat, weight gain, metabolic function, insulin resistance, type 2 diabetes. It's like if we could just get the world outside, think about how much less metabolic syndrome issues we would have. Like, just that's what this podcast keeps making me think of. And it's like, I do think, like, when you look at those pictures, like of 60 years ago or 70 years ago that people put on the internet about looking at people at the beach and how much thinner they were.
Oh yeah, I
Yeah.
love those photos. Those photos are so interesting.
Right. Like, if you, it's kind of crazy to see what we've become, right? And the reason is partly because we didn't fear the sun. We were outside more. We didn't use, overprotecting of the sunscreen and all this stuff, right? Yes, it's also the seed oils. Yes, it's also processed foods. Yes, it's also Wi-Fi. Yes, it's also artificial light. It's all of these things are to use of our suppressive medications. It's all of these things, but just get outside, please, for your health.
Yes, and don't forget that if you're new to this information, getting outside around sunrise is essential. Start with the day. I mean, I know people have to work, but if
Yeah.
you have restrictions on your schedule, do it on the weekends or whenever you have the chance. And so get outside during sunrise, and then after that's going to be what we call UVA frequencies and then UVB. So there's a natural sequence that happens and unfolding during the morning. And the more you can capture all of those, the better, right? So it's just your body, that's what it knows. It knows the natural progression of the frequencies that occur.
Yeah.
So,
Craft your body.
yep. The next one is a corticotropin-like intermediate low peptide. That's called CLIP for short. And this is involved with the hypothalamus pituitary axis regulation. So with the UV light, it helps to modulate the HPA axis. So it balances out your ACTH. So then it's going to help to prevent excessive cortisol production. And it also helps with neuroprotective functioning. So like it reduces glutamate-induced excitotoxicity in the brain,
Ooh,
which
that's a good
helps,
one.
yeah, which helps with stress, regulated neuronal damage.
I kind of missed that. I don't know how I missed that in the notes. Like, I didn't notice that, but that's really important because a lot of people will say they've got like glutamate toxicity and all that. So, just getting out in the sunlight can help bring that back to balance. And again, it's supporting that cortisol pattern. And how many people have like adrenal fatigue, right?
Right. Oh, no, that's what I had.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
had pretty, I think it was, there's a way that they rate it. I can't remember, Vanessa, when I took with the functional medicine person, like it's like 0 to 5 or 0 to 7. I was pretty high on the scale
Hmm.
of adrenal exhaustion. I think it was 7 was like complete adrenal exhaustion. And a lot of people say there's no such thing as adrenal fatigue. So, but if we're going to look at that functional paradigm, I had a 5 or something. So it was pretty serious. I wasn't necessarily bedridden, but the only thing that has helped me to recover from that is sunlight and
Amazing.
darkness and getting rid of blue light
Darkness.
at
Yeah.
night. Yep.
Yep. Yep.
Mhm.
Sunlight, so bright days, dark nights, bright days, dark nights.
Yes.
That's what we need to have. Wow, that's so great. So amazing. Yeah, I don't know if it's really adrenal fatigue or if it's just artificial, like, poor circadian rhythms and artificial blue light, right? And not getting outside. I don't really know, but this also helps. Clips also helps maintain insulin sensitivity, prevents cortisol-induced gluconeogenesis, hypoglycemia, and metabolic dysfunction. And then, of course, under artificial blue light, we're going to have dysregulated adrenal function, contributing to cortisol excess and adrenal fatigue. So, again, we need to just be outside in the sunlight. I don't know why we have 10, but we got another one, which is immune regulation. So N-terminal POMC peptide. And this also plays a role in immune function or immune tolerance and suppresses pro-inflammatory cytokines like TFN. We talked about this, TNF alpha and LL6, and also promotes more anti-inflammatory cytokines such as LL10 and supports T regulatory cells and also helps maintain skin immunity and supports conditions like psoriasis and eczema. So we want to have this is I know so many people with psoriasis and eczema who say that that goes away. Like, this is actually my father-in-law's case.
Mm.
That goes away in the summertime when he gets more sun, but in the wintertime it flares up like crazy because he doesn't have any sun. And we know that some dermatologists are actually using light therapy to support these things.
Oh yeah, they use UVA light, but I think we need the full spectrum.
Oh, 100%. Well, yes,
Mhm.
100%. But yeah. Yeah, and under artificial blue light, it's going to increase chronic inflammation and immune dysregulation and raising the risk of autoimmune diseases again. So, yeah,
Mhm.
make sure that we're just getting outside to activate this POMC, getting our skin exposed because it needs to be skin exposed. And yeah,
Mhm.
Yeah.
Let's round this out, our discussion of POMC, Vanessa, with leptin. And I'm sure a lot of you have already heard of leptin by now, and it's sort of becoming more,
Yeah.
uh, discussed in the health circles, especially the quantum community. And it's basically a hormone that is created in your fat tissues, and it's a master energy regulating hormone in your body, and it's super important. And leptin is what actually influences POMC neurons in the hypothalamus and stimulates the production of the alpha MSH that we talked about earlier, which regulates your appetite and energy production. So leptin is kind of like a gauge
Mhm.
to assess your body's energy storage, that it like how much fat you have stored as energy. So then it can tell your body what, like how much food you need to eat and so forth. So it's really, really important.
Yeah, 1,000,000%. And this pathway is regulated by light and circadian rhythms. That's the most important thing. Like proper leptin signaling is tightly regulated to circadian rhythms and light exposure, especially UV light, which will enhance leptin sensitivity and support POMC activation. So again, if you're got the blue light going on at night and you're lacking natural sunlight during the day, this is going to impair leptin's ability to activate POMC, right? And leading to leptin resistance, increased appetite, and more metabolic dysregulation. Leptin also needs, I would say, space between meals, right? So meal timing is also important. So leaving, that 3 to 4 hours between meals is also helpful for leptin to get regulated as well. And you need to be sleeping well because leptin docks to the hypothalamus at night. So you also need to have good sleep, and your insulin needs to be not over too high, because when your insulin is too high, they compete, the leptin and the insulin repeat, and the insulin will win and the leptin won't be docking, so the insulin takes over. So if your insulin is too high due to all the things we mentioned today, then you're not going to get leptin actually docking, and you're not going to get that message in your brain in the hypothalamus to know, like, hey, how much stored energy does Vanessa have or Heather have today? So how much food does she need to have, right? That's what it's really basically telling you. It's controlling appetite in many ways. So,
Right, because if you don't get good sleep and you're like, say for example, you're eating too late, you're eating too many carbs, your cortisol, which makes your cortisol high because your blood sugar is high, your leptin's not docking properly, you're not getting that sunlight during the day, so you don't have the stimulation for POMC. Guess what? And you're sleeping poorly, the next day you eat too many carbs because you don't have enough energy and you didn't get the memo about how much fat storage you have.
but that's what I think happens a lot of times to a lot of people, especially if they're
Sure.
relying on food as their only energy source. They're not relying on these other energy sources like sunlight and earthing, right? And all the other ways that we can make energy. And they're eating at night and they're looking at the blue light at night and they're not thinking about these things. So this is a huge part of our entire metabolic dysfunction that we have as a society. Like this is a
Yeah.
huge reason why, and we really need to get this knowledge out there. So I hope we're doing that today with this podcast. Yeah.
Yeah, because it's not only about willpower. I think that's,
Oh,
but then I
yes.
don't want to say also you get a green light. You can just eat whatever you want. It's knowing how your body works, that you're basically a bioelectric being and you need the right frequencies to come in to help your body to know what to do and to get the nutrient, the basically the frequencies or the energetic nutrients that it needs in order to function properly. So then it'll help you feel better. You won't be stressed out. You'll get the energy you need, and then your body will be able to read its own fat storage, and then it'll be easier to you make better food choices, right? And so it all works together. So when you're working against nature, basically you're going to make it hard on yourself. You're going to lean more towards eating carbs, and then it just makes everything worse.
This is so good. I love that you put about that willpower, and I just want to touch on it before we end, because so many people think, like, I mean, you're talking, I'm a woman who used to be 60 pounds overweight, which for
Okay.
my height and weight, it was obesity, right?
Okay.
And I would think, you need the willpower to like stop, and the emotional eating. And I would hide the chips in the bed, in the closet. Literally, there'd be chips in my closet. And I would always have the blood sugar dysregulation, have to snack every hour. I always had a banana or a honey crisp with me. And I was like, it's natural. Um, all these things, like, because we think about the willpower, like, oh, we just don't have enough willpower to like stop or say no. but it also has a lot to do with your light environment that is dictating you to drive all these dysfunction and for you to want to snack all the time and to want the sugar and to not make these good choices, right? So it's like it's like if we're dealing with somebody who has, say, an issue with weight and hormone and metabolic issues, it's a hell of a lot easier to start with getting your light environment right than to go to food. And I went to food first because I mean, that's what I was taught. I was like, oh, diet and exercise, right? So I am very type A and very much can follow a plan. So when I did Weight Watchers, I was like, I ate the right amount of points every day and I lost the 60 pounds and I stayed on that calorie restriction because I was fearful of adding more food in. But even though my body, you cannot live in a deficit for years and years and years without having detrimental effects to your health, right? And I just wonder what would have happened if I would have done light first. Like it would have been a whole different scenario because it caused a lot of health and autoimmune issues as I went forward. And then I was actually 95 pounds and really sick because I was so fearful of food and so fearful of all the things and over fasting, right? Because I was really sick. So then it became all food is bad, right? Except for meat. And it's like that was a whole nother conversation. But my point is if we started with light, with these people, what would happen, right? They would actually naturally lose weight. Cravings would naturally reduce and they would have more energy to move their body.
Mm-hmm. Yep, working in harmony with how your body's designed.
Right.
But that's our whole point of the podcast, you guys, is to help bring this paradigm of the truth of the quantum biology so that you can understand that you're a being of light and that you really run on negative electrons frequency. You got to work on your voltage, right? Having enough energy from the environment, from the right inputs, and then you won't be feeling like you're stuck or a victim to this modern day living, which is really how I see it, is it's easy to get stuck in that and
Oh,
looking
absolutely.
for the pill or looking for the functional medicine person. No, you need to just go outside and know how to judiciously use nature and sunlight to your advantage.
100%. And if you want, I have my Get Your Light Right webinar and ebook. That is a really cost-effective way to learn this information. I actually don't dive into POMC that deeply because you really don't need to even know all that information. I just teach you how to use the sunlight to support your health. And I teach you how to hopefully I'm quelching that fear if you have fear of sunlight in that as well and teaching you all the benefits of sunlight like we've mentioned here. I mean, I do talk about POMC, but not as deeply even as we did today with all those because you don't even need to know that to heal. Like you just need to know how to get outside and be out there and then how to block the artificial light at night. And there's some nuances throughout the day too, as well, I would say, of how
Yeah.
to do that. So yeah,
So
go.
book a session with Vanessa, check out her ebook or webinar, and feel free to book a session with me as well if you want guidance on how to navigate all this, as well as the emotional realm, which I help people with. So
Yes, yes, the emotional realm is also clutch. So we thank you so much for tuning in, and we'll see you on the next episode. Thanks so much, guys.